Hello, Internet. I'm Chris Mitney, but you can call me Mr. FLIXTER, and I'm here to talk motion pictures. Let me tell you a little bit about myself before I continue. My name is Chris Mitney. That's my tenny, like my tennis shoe came untied. I'm coming to you from Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. Currently, I'm a critic on HorrorBuzz.com. I was on there recently as a guest star, and we talked about our favorite movies of 2021. And what a polarizing year for films it was. Oh. So, I was inspired to start my own YouTube channel. Oh, here's my co-star, Elsa. She'll pop in and out from here and there. Say hello, Elsa. Pretty kitty. To kick things off with my first video with my brand new YouTube channel, I thought I'd clear the air by starting off with the most disappointing movies from 2021. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. Well, everybody loves dirty laundry. And what better way to start off the year by just cleansing off and washing our hands away from all that negativity. So I have 10 movies that I thought were the most disappointing for 2021. Now, I might work for HorrorBuzz.com, but I love more than just horror movies, and that's exactly what this channel's for. Before I get started, all my reviews on Facebook are based off 6 criteria. I always judge movies based off writing, directing, acting, entertainment value, rewatchability factor, and then genre aspects. Like say if it's a horror movie, I'll judge the mood, the gore, stuff like that, you know. The rest of them kind of speak for themselves, but that's basically what I do when I write about movies. I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways. Spoiler warning. I'm talking to you. Talking to you. And you. Spoilers. 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 Beware the spoilers. Now, please keep in mind that I haven't seen every movie this year. And I just can't afford to see every movie in theaters as they come out. And I try to see as much as I can. So those ones don't qualify. I have to have seen the movie for them to qualify. Also, just because I don't like a movie doesn't mean somebody else won't. That's why I don't really like calling it the worst, but no one searches for the most disappointing movies of 2021. They search for the worst movies of 2021. No matter how bad I think a movie is, or you think a movie is, it took a lot of people to make it, and it took a long time for it to happen. Like, we're lucky as many movies get made as they do, so all the movies that I mentioned on the list today are worth watching at least once. Just give it a shot. Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean that you wouldn't. Let's kick things off with comedy. Now, for that, I have to go with Home Sweet Home Alone. Now, this one I was actually pretty excited for before when I first heard about it, when it was gonna premiere on Disney Plus. I was actually pretty excited. You know, I like the Home Alone movies. The last couple weren't the greatest, you know. This one is about a kid who goes to an open house that's being held by a married couple. They're trying to sell their home, but they do it while their kids are away at school. They haven't told their kids yet. And then they come across this kid named Max. So the plan is, because the family went away to Japan, to break into the house while they're gone and get their doll. Now, this was very problematic because there remain a lot of odd creative choices. Like, they tried to make it more sympathetic for the burglars than for the kid. And even the kid, like, Archie Yates is a great actor. I liked him in Jojo Rabbit and everything like that, but the kid is just written as kind of a jerk. So it's like, who are we rooting for? Because the burglars aren't really the good guys, and the kid's not really the good guys. And, well, the kid's not a good guy either. And some of the traps, oh, the traps oh, some of them are just downright sadistic. Some of them are just cruel. They're not very original. They're not very inspired. One of my favorites in the series has to be part 3, when the kid switches the pool with the trampoline. But this one, it's not even funny, and it's like, who was this even made for? Because I don't even think kids would be very entertained by it. Like, you can't even compare with the originals. So, anyways, that was the most disappointing comedy movie. Next up, I'm going to talk about foreign films. Now, the most disappointing foreign film for me was A Classic Horror Story. Now, A Classic Horror Story is all about 5 people traveling in a camper who get into a car accident. And then when they wake up, there's an impenetrable forest all around them and a wooden house. So it's a completely different setting from one they were in before the crash. What that applies here is everything under the sun has been done before. Now by that, I mean that it does lean heavily on a lot of cliches for the horror movie subgenre. But this Italian film has some of the most genuinely wince-inducing scenes ever filmed. And I don't usually get grossed out when I watch horror movies like that. I have a pretty iron stomach, like, bring the gore on. But this movie was a doozy, but it all leads up to a very underwhelming conclusion. I see, the twist at the end, when you find out everyone's just in dark web snuff films, is both mean-spirited and unsatisfactory, in my opinion. Although it does show off the beautiful Italian landscape, so that's a plus. So, that was my most disappointing foreign film. Next up, most disappointing sci-fi film. So the most disappointing sci-fi film for me for 2021 was Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, I know there was a lot of hype behind this movie. I know it's the 4th movie in the legendary, Monsterverse, if that's what you want to call it. But I just feel these movies spend too much time on the human characters that I don't really care about. And each one that comes out, there's a different set of human characters, and they're new each time. And I just don't care about the human characters. We don't go to these movies for the humans. I mean, the first fight between the 2 monsters isn't even until 45 minutes into the movie. Don't get me wrong, some of the fight scenes are pretty impressive, like the one at the end. The grand finale fight between the 2 is good, but the whole thing about Mechagodzilla, why cram Mechagodzilla into the movie at all? Why not just wait and then put him or it into another movie and give Mechagodzilla its own movie? Because then the 2 team up, and it just seems kind of anticlimactic to me. I don't understand what the hype was for this movie, and I don't understand why people like this movie. And even the sense of scale and scope is all thrown off of the movie, and it took me completely out of it. Like the one scene when the 2 of them are fighting on the aircraft carrier. I'm sorry, but King Kong is not the same size as Godzilla, and there's no way that boat would be able to hold the 2 of them like that. Come on, no. There's so much more to it that just took me right out of it. There's so many plot holes. It's just so convoluted. It's just so complicated. And it doesn't have to be like that. We could have just had a simple Kong versus Godzilla movie, and it could have been great. That's the thing about these movies I find is the most frustrating. They could have been great, but they overthink them, and they overcomplicate them. I'm not expecting high art, but I'm expecting a fun movie, and it just wasn't very fun. Next up is my most disappointing animated film. For this one, I have to go with Doggone Trouble. It's all about a pampered rich dog named Trouble, who basically, this old lady passes away, and then when her kids come to claim an inheritance, turns out that the only way that they can get it is if they can take care of the dog for a certain amount of time. Now, this plot and the way it pans out is just as ridiculous as it sounds. I almost turned this movie off a few times because it's lowbrow, cringe-worthy toilet humor. I mean, after the first half an hour, poop jokes kind of get old. This goes on and on and on and on. And then the voice cast, the characters don't even match up with the voices that were given to them. Like, it's very off-putting. Like, I just there's just not much about this film. Like, even the animation itself, for a Netflix film, and I believe it was a Sony film, it's not very polished compared to some of the other stuff that's been put out there. So yeah, those are the reasons why that's my most disappointed animation. Another thing about it is this was the last film role for Betty White. So unfortunately, that kind of casts a dark shadow over this already mediocre film. Next up, drama. I have to go with Cry Macho. It's kind of like a modern day Western movie. It's all about a retired rodeo performer who's hired by a guy to bring his son back from Mexico to the United States. Now, the problem with this one is the pacing is incredibly slow. It just goes on, and it feels way longer than what it actually is. And there's certain times where I was just wanted it to get to the point. And even the messages that it has, it seems more preachy than trying to incorporate it into the story like social commentary should, in my opinion, if you're trying to do that for your films. Oh, there's my other co-star, Bella. Hello, Bella. Say hi. Say hi. There's my other co-star. She'll pop in from time to time too, don't mind her. That's Bella. I have two kitties. Now, like I was saying, the problem with Cry Macho is like it has no heart. I get what he was trying to do, but it's just not as good. In my opinion, he's really gone downhill as a director in the past like decade or so. But who knows? Maybe the next one might be better. So yeah, that's what I have to say about Cry Macho. Now, the next genre we're going to talk about is musicals. This is a personal favorite genre for me besides horror. Most disappointing for me this year had to be Cinderella. This is an Amazon Prime original. It's the classic tale with some contemporary spins on different things. Now, my biggest problem with this Juicebox musical is the song selection. Now, unlike some of the better ones like Moulin Rouge and Rock of Ages, the song choices here seem really uninspired and they seem really out of place to the point where it's just distracting. Also, Idina Menzel, Billy Porter, and James Corden are all horribly underutilized. Like, if you're gonna get such talent like that, why not, I don't know, use them? And another thing, if she's not even gonna give up her job for a man, and you don't even agree with what they're trying to say in the old tale, if you think that's an old-fashioned, like, story, then why remake the movie in the first place? And I'm sorry, but Camila Cabello is not a good actress. You need to stick to singing, girl. That's all I have to say about Cinderella. Actually, hold on. Funny story. I actually forgot that I watched this till I did my research, and Amazon Prime keeps track, so I had to rewatch this. And oh, I'll never get that time back. Next, we're going to talk about fantasy. For this one, I have to go with The Green Knight. This one is all about a knight named Sir Gawain. And it's about his journey as he goes off and he faces the Green Knight. Now this one is another one that has a problem with pacing. It's so slow and nothing happens the whole movie. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Nothing happens. It's a guy on his horse. He meets a fox. He looks at some giants. They don't fight or anything. They just kind of howl, and the fox kind of howls too. And then he goes off, and he faces the Green Knight, and he gets his head cut off. It's like, oh, did you not get what the Green Knight said in the beginning? Whatever you do to me, I'm going to come back in a year, and I'm going to do to you. So you cut his head off? Oh. Then you don't even do anything about it. You just let it happen. After I watched it, I was like, what did I just watch? I just don't understand. Why was the Green Knight praised so much? Why? So now we're down to the top 3 most disappointing films of 2021. Now we're going to talk about horror. As much as I loathed Halloween Kills, I absolutely despised, I can even say I hated, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, because this actually had a very interesting premise. It's about a group of people who go to a beach, and for some reason they start aging rapidly. The movie felt like a very disappointing waste of time, because the over-convoluted twist ending was really predictable, and it would take so much involved in order for that scenario to work. And another thing, if they knew about that hole in the coral, why not just fill it? It is riddled with plot holes. Like, if they could go through the canyon to get onto the beach, why can't they leave the beach? Wouldn't they pass out getting there? And that's just the beginning. Like, why were the kids there if they weren't sick? And why was the dog sent there? If you think about it, essentially they were just sent there to die. But hey, that's why I found Old the most disappointing horror film of 2021. There's just something about M. Night Shyamalan. He's just so hit and miss. I've really lost faith with him over the last decade or so when it comes to him making movies. But hey, maybe the next one might be better. Who knows? We're going to talk about action movies. I have to go with Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat! Sorry, I had to. In case you don't know, it's all about the people of Earth are trying to save the world by fighting in a tournament so they can protect our world from a place called Outworld, which is like another dimension. Where do I begin with this? This has to be definitely the second most disappointing movie of 2021. With this one, with such a wealth of content, of characters and lore to go by, my whole thing personally is, why spend all your time on a character that wasn't even in the games? And why waste all your time on side plots that don't end up amounting to anything? Very odd creative choices, in my opinion. Heck, I could have even went with right at the end if Cole would have put on a pair of sunglasses and said that I'm going to Hollywood. You can call me Johnny Cage, and then signed an autograph. I'd buy that as somewhat of a clever twist, because I just kind of made that up when I was writing this on the spot. So that's what I mean. It seems like they didn't really put any thought into this. It seems like they don't really understand the characters in the games. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting like high quality art, and it does have its perks. I did like the intro with Scorpion. That was cool. I did like the final fight with Scorpion and Sub-Zero, but Scorpion's barely in the movie. It's all about Cole. And for a long time, I thought Cole would become Scorpion, but no, he becomes his own character with some sort of power that I still don't really fully understand, with a shiny vest. And I feel like a lot of the characters were underutilized. And like Goro was basically a henchman, and he doesn't even have a line of dialogue. And he's supposed to be Prince of the Underworld. No. And there's this whole thing between Goro and Kung Lao that would have been great. That was a good storyline in the game, and it would have been a good movie too. Even Liu Kang is underused. Kano's okay. He gets kind of annoying after a while. But worst of all, there's not even a tournament. Now, I don't know if they're trying to build up for like the second one or what, or if there's even going to be a second one. I don't know. Again, I felt like this was a big waste of time for me. It was really highly anticipated for me. I was really looking forward to a good R-rated Mortal Kombat movie, and it just failed on so many levels, in my opinion. That's the thing, too. These are all my opinions. I'm not saying I'm right. So go ahead and disagree in the comments. Just have some class about it. The final genre I'm going to talk about is comic book movies. Now, the most disappointing movie for me for 2021 was Snake Eyes. That's right. This movie failed as an action flick. This movie failed as a G.I. Joe flick. this movie failed as a martial arts flick. It's just halfway through the movie, I forgot that I was watching a G.I. Joe until they mentioned Cobra again. I mean, he's not even Snake Eyes. He talks basically the whole movie. They don't even explain why he's mute. I thought they get into the thing in the comics when he tries to save Scarlet and he gets into the horrible helicopter accident and he gets horribly disfigured and he becomes a mute and then he has to wear the costume because of it. But no, none of that happens. He goes after, and basically it's an Infinity Stone and he works with Cobra. He's the villain. Why wasn't this a Storm Shadow movie? Like, I felt really bad for Storm Shadow after this movie. Oh, it's just so painful to watch. I stubbed my toe this morning, and it was still a less painful experience than watching Snake Eyes. Why does this movie involve mystical and magical elements, like those giant snakes? G.I. Joe was supposed to be all about technology and the advancement of that. So yeah, it fails as a martial arts ninja movie, it fails as a G.I. Joe movie, it fails as a Snake Eyes origin movie. And believe you me, I love a good comic book origin movie. Comic book movies are one of my favorite genres, along with musicals and along with horror. Funny story, Snake Eyes made me so mad. When I got home, I sat down and took like 2 hours to write like a 2,000 word essay about how much I hated this movie. And then I got mad at myself because I took so long writing about this movie and thinking about this movie so much. So I went to bed, woke up the next day, and somehow I worked it out to do a review of less than 1,000 words. So I still gave it a D- though. So that wraps up my most disappointing movies of 2021. I have 10 genres, and I mentioned 10 movies. Do you agree with my list? Remember, I'm not saying this is the right list. I'm just saying this is my personal opinion, and it's okay to agree to disagree. Just have some class about it. So like I said, I'm Chris Mitchell. You can call me Mr. FLIXTER. Mr. FLIXTER. Mr. FLIXTER. You can find me on Facebook. Just search hashtag Mr. FLIXTER. I wrote reviews for most of the movies that I talked about. But please keep in mind, I don't write reviews about all the movies that I watch. And I don't really like writing negative reviews for the most part. But people love dirty laundry. And it's good to get that negativity and wash our hands of all that stuff before we start the next year. Hopefully we get much better movies. If you like what you see, please hit that like button. Please comment below and feel free to be a part of the discussion. And I'll be happy to make conversation with you as well. Have a great day. Happy New Year.